Okay, so hello and welcome to the first of our In Conversation series. I am Liz Mayers, co-founder of EDI Accreditation. And as the name suggests, we provide workplace EDI accreditation for companies who are serious about improving equality, diversity and inclusion. We've built a brilliant community of specialist providers who help organisations improve specific elements of EDI. And today I'm delighted to be joined by three of our fantastic community members, Gemma, Ian and Mo, for this conversation about how Trump might actually be helping women. So if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourselves, should we go alphabetically? Gemma first.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Liz. So I'm Gemma Rabbini and I run a company called Coach and Bloom, and I help businesses retain, empower and develop their female talent. So I'm all about ensuring that women can be retained in the workforce, and that when life and work smash together, that when they want to stay, they can stay and they can have careers that they are truly proud of and lives that they love.
Amazing, thank you. Ian.
Hi there, hi everyone. My name is Ian Benjamin and I am a recruitment guy. Been in recruitment for 20 years, something like that. And my focus is partnering with employers that take ethnic diversity as a focus, and we provide them with shortlists of Black ethnic talent for vacancies across the digital and technical landscape, so digital marketing, data, developers, etc. And so that's what I do.
Fantastic. You also are the founder of the Black Data Professional Network as well, aren't you? Which is a brilliant initiative to really build a community within the data professionals for Black and ethnic as well.
Definitely, yeah. So the Black Data Professional Network, BDPN, we have 3,000 members. We started the network May 2023 as a way to upskill, uplift the individuals, Black individuals who are underrepresented in that sector. So we did that through mentor programs. We've also got the BDPN Data Science Academy, and we've recently launched a CV database that our partners such as British Airways, Auto Trader, Salesforce, I can't remember all the names, AWS, our most recent partner. They use the CV database to give them a wider pool of Black talent for consideration. So when they're hiring for the data digital type roles, they've got a wider pool of talent to consider Black individuals who potentially may not be in front of them, essentially. So that's what we do through the BDPN. But I didn't want to take up too much time, so that's why I didn't mention it. But thank you for the opportunity to mention it.
Last but no means least, Mo, tell us about you and what you're doing at Watch This Space.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Mo Kanjilal, co-creator at Watch This Space. We are a diversity and inclusion company founded during the pandemic, so we're almost 5, incredibly. And what we do is we help organisations through a process called inclusion journey mapping uncover what it is they need to work on and what are the areas that they need to focus on, and then we embed the work that they need to do through training programs. So we don't believe in one-off training courses. We believe you need a program of change, and we look at diversity inclusion across the board. So we try and be as inclusive as we can, and we cover different areas. So it's really great to meet both of you, because I feel like we should connect afterwards, because I'm sure there's going to be opportunities to work together afterwards. But yeah, that's what we do at Watch This Space.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So as March is Women's History Month, I wanted to start this conversation by saying the names of some incredible women. Amelia Earhart, Emmeline Pankhurst, Jane Austen, Florence Nightingale, Rosa Parks, Anne Frank, Grace Hopper, Katherine Johnson, Gladys West, Marie Curie, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Bessie Coleman, Ada Lovelace. Amazing names. We know lots of them, most of them, I would hope. And between them, they've made huge impacts on history. Without them, computing, travel, space travel, medical care would all look very different today. The list also contains literary greatness and political activists who have changed the world for the better. These all women all have amazing brains, had amazing brains. They also had courage, tenacity, determination, empathy, and the ability to overcome huge challenges in their day, which are all fantastic leadership traits. Donald Trump claims to want to do away with EDI and go back to a meritocracy, a reality that most people acknowledged has never existed. He seems to think EDI initiatives are designed to give jobs to undeserving people just based on their gender or their ethnicity, sexual orientation or religion. So looking at who he's given his top jobs to, his so-called meritocracy seems woefully short on merit. But the women I mentioned prove that brilliance is definitely not exclusive to men. So panel, what do you think the implications are on women in the workplace having a president with Trump's views that he's very, very happy to share regularly? Who should we go to first? Gemma.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because I think when somebody makes such a big statement about this is something that I believe in, this is something that is total nonsense, whatever it is, it creates an emotional reaction in us. And I think the implication for businesses and for kind of wider society is actually it's an opportunity to stop and think, how do I feel about this? Does this make me want to do something bigger and better? Does this make me want to maybe stop what I'm doing and focus on something that really makes a difference? And I think when you kind of hear the narrative that is around this, there's businesses that have made decisions, aren't there? There's businesses that have pulled back activity, and there's businesses that have gone, no, we think this is really, really important. So I think for me, I try and always reframe everything in a positive frame of mind, because I think actually, as you know, however we may feel about this particular individual, we all need to be putting forward the people who are best for the job. But in order to do that, we need everyone to have an equal platform to start with. And actually, some of those people start from a different place. So actually, yes, I agree with you, Donald Trump. We do need, meritocracy. We do need everyone. No one wants a job just because they're a woman, just because they're black, just because they're disabled. Like nobody wants a job just just because of the way that they look.
Yeah.
But we do need the best people in our businesses to drive things forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Mo, in and
So I'm happy to talk next. So it's interesting because that list of women you read out are probably I didn't see many women of colour, and that's the thing that occurs to me, but we'll all have our own like feminist icons that are probably different. What I always think when I see those lists is actually what we don't know about is all of the other women everywhere in the world that have done things that didn't get credited for that, or did things against the odds, and we don't know their names, and they're not the people on posters and things like that. So I think it's been a history of a fight for existence, a fight for recognition. And it's not only women, it's everything's intersectional, but it's not only women that have done that. And so the reasons we need EDI, DEI, whatever acronym you want to use, is because the world is not a meritocracy. It's absolutely not. And without these initiatives, what you see is what's currently happening, that the same types of people are those given positions of power. And if you don't have anything in place that addresses those imbalances in the world, then this is what you end up with. And in terms of what's happening with women in the workplace, I would say what's happening for women in the USA right now is terrifying. It's not only what's happening for women, it's what's happening to anyone viewed as different to those people in power, who are not necessarily minorities either. There's a lot of people being affected by what's going on. And I don't know if any of you watched the Handmaid's Tale TV series. If you did, there's the earlier episodes where things just start happening. Women are unable to use their bank card. They're unable to drive a car, like slow erosion of their rights. And they kind of sit baffled thinking, what's happening here? And it feels like that's what's going on. It feels like in the USA, there's just this these different things going on all the time. My husband works for a US software company. It's like, what's going on in the Slack channels. There are a lot of American companies that are rebranding what they're doing because they know that they need to do these things, but they're rebranding it to try and carry on with this work. And so the implications are, they're so wide-reaching, it's terrifying. And we're only very early into this presidency. So it feels like, what's going to happen next? All I can see happening is that these men in power are going to fall out with each other. And like, what's going to happen then? That's what I keep thinking.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely madness. It's like a bull in a china shop, and I feel sorry for anybody across the DEI landscape. So whether they're black, white, but they could be, gay, disability, neurodiverse, doesn't matter. I mean, how would you feel working for a company that's changed their focus? Because prior to Trump becoming president again, you'd be working for an organization that's championing DEI, which makes you feel as though, yeah, you've got a fair chance of rising through the ranks, regardless of your DEI situation. And that's been taken away. So you'd automatically think, well, oh my gosh, if I do apply for that role, am I really going to be considered for it? And so, yeah, it's crazy. It's just really kicking off. I think a lot of people that have voted for him as well are secretly saying to themselves, oh my God, because he's just literally bullying the china shop, changing things. A lot of companies, for example, AWS, they one of the first companies to align themselves with the new Trump situation, administration, and because for government contracts, and I think the same thing with like several other large tech firms as well. And AWS have just partnered with us with the BDPN, but as Mo rightly said, they're rebranding it. So, and they're leaning into different areas of focus from the DEI landscape because they need to align themselves with Trump, commercial reasons, but also they don't want to lose sight or lose momentum for what they've done over the last 4 or 5 years from a DEI perspective. So it's really kind of bizarre, really. I don't know how Trump's going to see that. But yeah, it's an absolute nightmare, absolute shambles for Americans working for companies that have changed their compass. I mean, you just wouldn't feel secure about being there. And I'll say one more thing on it. I mean, in 4 years' time, if Trump carries on and the Democrats get back in power, what are those companies going to do then? Are they all suddenly going to change back to being DEI focused? Are they just going to flip that? And then if they did, how authentic would they really be in terms of DEI? Do you know what I mean? So, because I don't know whether for what's going on right now, I don't know whether he's going to, whether the Republicans are going to stay in power in 4 or 5 years' time. But if they don't, then what's going to happen then? So yeah, it's just absolute really mental, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, really interesting. And for me, I think where these companies are sort of jumping on board, particularly the big, as you say, the tech companies. So you've got Meta, who obviously own Facebook and Instagram and things. A lot of people would say that those platforms haven't always been very safe spaces for marginalised communities and marginalised individuals in terms of the protection, but they've openly said, it's okay to refer to women as possessions.
Crazy.
It's okay to refer to LGBTQ plus people as mentally insane because of their sexual orientation. And you go, so if I was working in one of those organizations, you've just told me you're okay with me being discriminated against. You've just told me you don't think I have equal rights to the guy sitting next to me or the heterosexual person who's also doing a similar role. And that, I think, is really worrying. And I think people will start to vote with their feet. You know, we all need to pay the bills and have, you know, mortgages and things like that. But if I were a woman in one of those organizations, or a woman working in America for one of these companies, I would be looking to move to somewhere that was going to respect me and treat me as an equal.
You say that, but I mean, I think a lot of people just suck it up because they know, especially right now, that you're 100% right in what you're saying, but you're also right in what you said about people having bills and mortgages to pay. And people, at the end of the day, people just suck it up because I speak to so many DEI people with what I do, because leaning into DEI with my business, and a lot of individuals that were put into those positions of DEI managers, directors 4 or 5 years ago, over the last 2 years, a lot of them, I'd say more than half, have had budgets taken away, they've had responsibilities taken away, and they can't do anything. They're just sitting on their hands, and they're just like, you know, they're on their website as a DEI manager, but they've got no influence at all. They can't do anything. And they know that they should be doing more, but they just sit there because they're getting their 75, 80 grand a year, whatever it is. And like me and you and everyone else, probably got big mortgages to pay and kids to feed and all the rest of it. And they think, you know what, I'm just going to write it out. And so that's, you know, people just write it out. They just get their head down and write it out. Because they, especially now with the job market being as it is, so where there's, you know, there's more supply of candidates than there is demand for skills for the last 2 years. So people just going to look after themselves. But you're right in what you're saying. They should not. They should think, well, do you know what? I need to hit the high road. But a lot of people aren't in the position to do that. They're just going to think, well, oh my God, you know, I'm just going to push my mouse around the table and do some projects over here and create a Black History Month banner for the next 6 weeks. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever.
I was going to say on that, I think what it has highlighted is those that didn't really mean it anyway. It has highlighted that, the ones that are very quick to cancel. And in terms of the platforms, I don't know if you saw the content about Andrew Tate on Spotify. My phone's been going mad about that, where they're actually platforming his course in how to pimp women, basically, Spotify. And it sparked a lot of debate on social media, because we do have power in where we spend our money, but it takes collective action. It does, like, individually, if I cancel a Spotify subscription, like, they don't care, but it takes collective action to actually do something collectively. There was the blackout day in the US, I think it was last week, where they said, like, don't spend any money in some of those brands like Amazon and things like that. But the problem with those things is it has to be absolutely collective.
Yeah.
Otherwise it doesn't work. If it's just a few thousand people, nothing changes.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because what I've realised, so when Zuckerberg made the announcements he did about the Meta platforms, I was like, right, I'm coming off. I don't like it. I was never on X since you know who took over. But for me, I was like, right, I'm coming off. And as a business, you then have to go, right, well, who do we connect with on these different platforms? What are the alternatives? And also on a personal perspective, you know, with Facebook, how on earth am I going to remember birthdays from here on out? So it's that thing of then getting your data back and coming off in a way that makes sense for you as an individual. And with the whole Spotify thing, I said to my daughter, I'm cancelling and she was like, no, all my music, what am I going to use? And then, you know, you start looking at the alternatives, and there's some questionable content on Apple. There's some you know, so everywhere you go, you're then feeling that you're kind of quite locked in and dependent 100%. On these technologies that we're used to, right?
Yeah, but that's what they know, that they know we're tied into those things. That's the power they have.
I'm going to have to get my CDs out.
We're going to play it though. We're going to play your CDs.
Well, yeah, that might be an issue, but I'm also showing my age as well. So, I mean, we've touched on it a little bit with that last talking point, but you know, Trump is obviously very openly misogynistic. I think, well, he said it's all right to grab women by their bits, and said that he'd even like to have sex with his own daughter.
What?
Yeah, that was another classic Trumpism, that she was so fit that he would if he wasn't related. And you just think, how can these organizations want to align themselves with that publicly? Research proves time and time again that diversity is so much better for business. McKinsey study showed that gender diverse executive teams are 25% more likely to have above average profitability. Credit Suisse found that companies where women held at least 20% of the management roles, they generate higher cash flow returns than male dominated ones. So what do you think is going to happen to these companies that are listening to Trump rather than the evidence?
I know what I'd like to happen. I'd like those companies to wake up, smell the coffee, because especially what's going to go on now, we don't know whether. I don't think the US are going to become isolated, but over the last few days, what's happening over there with the tariffs and so forth. I mean, it's really kind of like affecting loads of people, the American community, but also businesses as well. So I don't know how that's going to kind of pan out. But it's very, very kind of reckless, and he might fall on his sword and realize, he might have a hard lesson. But I think he's probably so pig-headed. But I don't know. I think he's so powerful that a lot of companies are scared, especially for the likes of Zuckerberg to make that transition to such a big statement. It shows the power that Trump has got. So I think a lot of companies are going to be will think twice and just kind of like ride it out and suck it and see, basically, in terms of what happens, because he's so powerful. But I think in their hearts they know it's not right. They must know that in their hearts, that from what he's saying from a DEI perspective for women, especially, as well. We're talking about Women's Day, that is totally prehistoric.
It's funny though, isn't it? Go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, do you think the fact that very clearly there is a financial incentive for these companies? So Deloitte in the US went against their own DEI research and wound back. But then it became apparent they had received 3.2 billion in federal funding last year. So you go, okay, there's a very obvious price tag.
Exactly, that's why. Yeah.
That's what they're doing. The government contracts, they because Facebook, from their point of view for communication internally, etc.
Yeah.
But all the companies from what I understand, I know there's obviously McDonald's as well. I'm sure they don't supply burgers into the White House every Thursday, but I mean, there's other reasons why. But typically speaking, without a doubt, there's financial reasons, 100%, for the government contracts.
But doesn't it confuse? It confuses me that an organisation, if you were told as an organisation to offend your customers, or to kind of do something that strategically you knew was going to hurt you long term, right? So as soon as you do it, you can't undo it. That's like, you've put your line in the sand. You've said, like, it's okay for you to be discriminated against. We actually don't care about you. We said we did, but to be honest, it was a bit of a joke. We're just going to go back to what we did before. If as a business you were told to do that to your customers, these businesses would be like, this is madness. This doesn't make sense. We all know that employees are your biggest asset as a company. So, and also there's a link between employee experience and customer experience, which is where my background is. So it just boggles my mind that these companies
100%.
are so easily bought. And I know it's a sad reality, but you're kind of like, hang on, but you're never going to be able to get that back. Once you've said that, humans will remember that is a thing, then they're not going to, you can't just turn it around and say, sorry.
So I was going to say, Gemma, that's where I'm with you on the sort of note of optimism, positivity. Eventually, people will not want to work for these organisations. Customers will have bad experiences. These things will all start to unravel. It's just that we've got to live in this time where that isn't happening now. That's the problem, that we're going to have to see what happens, because eventually, if you're a person that has a choice of where you're going to work, you're not going to stay there. if someone that has a choice of where you buy things, if there are alternatives that spring up, you're going to go and buy from those places instead. So that's where I feel like the collective voice as well. I do believe in the power of the collective. Like I say, if all the women in the US refused to buy anything from one of those brands, like what would happen? But the problem is, all women wouldn't do that. There are women that voted for Trump. They're not going to do that. So that's the problem. There isn't like a big collective activism around it that would make something like that happen. And you're also talking like about such a huge country with so many people. Like, to try and drive that kind of collective action would take a lot of organising to make something happen.
Definitely.
Although I do love to see the little signs. So I mean, Tesla sales are already.
I love seeing that graph where they're like.
Yeah. But I heard the other day though. I love that as well. I don't like the cars anyway. I don't think they've got any character. But anyway, that's a boy thing, probably a blue situation, maybe because I'm a bit of a car freak. But but I heard the sales in the UK are up 20%. That's what I don't know how true it is. Someone told me yesterday. Yeah, I was like, really? Wow. But man, I think the whole thing's just crazy. It just really is. But I mean, you need a really strong woman in the US to lead from the front and say, right, this is crazy. Where's your common sense, guy? Where's your values?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where are your values about?
And I think it needs everyone. I mean, it's about women and doing it for ourselves, but men, they all had a mother. Some of them have got female partners. Some of them have got daughters. It's like,
but a lot of them voted for Trump. They voted for him. So those people are not going to join in any kind of collective action against.
Don't you think it's a bit like Brexit though? I think there were a lot of people that fell for the numbers on the bus and went for the campaign, and actually very shortly after that vote, after the referendum, they suddenly went, oh God, what have I done?
But I don't think that's happening yet in the US. I don't think there's that many people that are thinking that yet.
There were some really interesting posts I saw after the Zelensky debacle, where there were Americans who had voted for Trump and they were in tears saying, what a classless, awful man. That's not leadership. That's, that's not what I voted for.
But I don't think there's that big group yet. That I don't think there's enough. I think it's too early. It's going to have to hurt people themselves for them to really
as you
care.
said, it's early, and it's early, and I think it's plans now. We've got to wait and see what happens. But I think you're absolutely right, because I think a lot of people, immigration in the US, a lot of people said, let's get the Latinos, blacks, and everybody out, and all the rest of it, and that was their biggest selling point, I think. And I think they're still hanging on to that, and so they're hanging on to that, and they're just absorbing everything else, because the immigration issue burns them more, if you like, for lack of a better term. They're more interested in that, so they're able to absorb anything else that he does. But how much can I take? There to be layers and layers and layers of this nonsense that he's putting into place, which is going to take its toll eventually. Because it's just, I think it's reckless. I think it's crazy, but but these individuals make America great again. But
I had an American friend come and visit just after the inauguration, and actually he was saying people are struggling with the cost of living crisis. They just want cheaper eggs.
Yeah.
And he went, and we're not going to get cheaper eggs, and we all know we're not going to get cheaper eggs deep down, but we want to hang on to that and hope that he's going to come true with those promises to improve the cost of living. And I think that's probably a little bit like the UK with the Labour government when they came in. There is that expectation that things are going to change overnight. And it's probably going to take a little while for the disappointment that they don't get cheaper eggs to sink in. I actually think having somebody like Donald Trump, who is as transparent about his contempt for certain groups of people, is a positive thing. You know who your enemies are and you can see them. It's almost easier to deal with somebody that is that blatant. And I think his divisiveness is getting other organisations to show their true colours as well. So for companies and people who don't share his views and want to prove that they're different now, whether it's from a talent attraction perspective or from looking after the people that they currently have working for them, what can they be doing? What should they be doing?
Such a massive opportunity, isn't it, for organisations? It reminds me of when I was in the corporate space in the recession, and I remember our leadership team, who were amazing, basically said companies who are not spending money now are going to rue the day that they kind of batten down the hatches, and actually now's the time we need to invest. And they invested and they came out of the recession so much stronger. So I think actually that's the opportunity, is for organizations to go, with all these people falling away that said that they were into this stuff and actually aren't, we're going to attract the best talent. We're going to have the most sustainable, diverse senior teams that are going to drive innovation, as you say, Liz, profitability, lower risk. They're going to be really going for delivering all of the commercial results that we need. And we're going to come out and we're going to look consistent. We're going to have continuity in our brand. We're going to attract the right talent during this time from other competitors who aren't doing this kind of stuff, but also longer term, particularly when we think about the younger generations for whom value alignment, purpose, really feeling like someone gets you and they really value you as an individual is vital. So these kind of dinosaurs that aren't doing anything are going to really regret it, I think, in a couple of years' time. So I think the opportunity is for businesses to hold their course. If you need to take a moment as an organisation, if you're in an ED&I role right now and you're thinking, oh God, I've got so much pressure, take a moment, look at what you've got in place. If the stuff that's not working that you think is outdated or is just kind of that you've kind of inherited, now's the opportunity to kind of put in place things that really make a difference. Let's not have kind of a marketing campaign of International Women's Day, Black History Month. Let's not just go through the motions. Let's actually do something that really makes a difference. And when people need the support, when people want to have the support to elevate their careers or to kind of have opportunities in kind of the data space, and you want a diverse talent pool, let's give them that opportunity to be able to really lean into it and go, this is our time. So I think, the opportunity is to lean in, don't lean back. Take a moment, review what you're doing, and then really think about, if you need to call it employee experience belonging, fine, you rebrand it, do what you need, but you need to really do something.
Doing it, I think
that's exactly it, and I completely agree. I think organizations during recessions that invest, that really focus on what they're doing, get back to the core of what it's all about, are the ones that survive, and it's absolutely the time to do that. And that's what we've jumped onto at Watch the Space. We've launched the Workplace Rebellion, we're the Rebel Alliance, join us. We've just kind of done that in the last couple of weeks. We're already getting a really good response to it, because actually that's how people are feeling. They're feeling like this is, they want, this is what we have to do. We have to double down. This is the time to really show what you're about. And when we come 100%. Through the other side, who's going to survive? It's going to be those companies that have focused on these things. So completely agree with you, Gemma.
Definitely, I hope you're right, because that's a space I work in, not just from my own being selfish, but for my community. For the D&I, the whole spectrum. Companies that double down on it, because I think all of us believe that it makes so much sense. We know the data suggests that companies are more profitable, and the employees love it because I know the companies, including them, and they see the value of them. So the employees don't want to leave. They want to double down because they know that their values are being, they're being accepted and within their organisation, and it makes them feel more committed to that organisation. It's a win-win-win-win-win, no matter what. So, I'm with you 100%.
I'm going to join your rebellion, Mo.
Yeah, join us. I'm going to message you both afterwards. Yeah,
please do. But just a final point on that. diversity in life, in our world, in our countries, in our communities is not changing, right? So whether Donald Trump likes it or not, there is still diversity for every business in terms of their customers. And if you do not have diversity in your organizations, you cannot innovate and deliver products that meet the needs of a diverse audience. So you're kind of like, this just doesn't make sense on so many levels, and it's not something that he's able to influence.
It's prehistoric. It's prehistoric. It's like it's going backwards.
Yeah.
It's like,
so
just like,
so it's kind of like, but there's links about better market share because customers resonate, because you've not got this groupthink dynamic. So I think even on a commercial customer experience lens, this just makes total sense to lean into. So I'm in the rebellion.
I'm going to tell you the quote we used on a social media post. It's from Star Wars. Rebellions are built on hope.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is Jyn Erso in Rogue One. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant note to end the conversation on, guys. I think that's amazing. Thank you so much for being part of this discussion. Thanks for anyone for watching. There are going to be more conversations coming in the series, so stay tuned, and thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.